All right, well, this is pretty fascinating. It may sound like science fiction, but some incredible research at the University of Toronto has paved the way for what's being referred to as liquid windows. It's an innovation that could reduce heating, cooling, and lighting costs, and it's all been inspired by nature. Ben Hatton's an associate professor at U of T and joins us now live to talk more about this development or research and what you've been able to produce. Ben, thanks for joining us this morning. So, liquid windows, and you're sort of used squid skin as kind of your, I guess, inspiration for this. Explain what you've created, what you guys have come up with.
Yeah, sure. So we're in material science, and we're interested in making basically smarter materials for windows, to make windows smarter, and essentially to make buildings more efficient. And really, the problem is that buildings consume a lot of energy. It's like sort of 30 to 40% of the total energy globally. That's often more than even transportation, right? So as we talk about electric cars and things, we should really be thinking about efficient buildings as well, you know?
So liquid windows sounds like, I don't know, like frozen water in a window, but that's not what we're talking about here. So why don't you explain in the connection to the squids?
Well, so in biology, biology is dynamic, you know, our skin is dynamic, and a lot of organisms in biology are able to change, you know, the color of their skin, the way that they absorb light. And so the problem we have is that buildings are kind of dumb, you know, windows don't change, right? So an overcast day in the winter is, you know, very different from a hot day in July, right?
Sure.
But windows don't change. So if we had windows that were able to change the solar, you know, transmission of light, we would have buildings that are a lot more efficient. So our device, you know, and I want to credit the work of my students, Raphael Kay and Charlie Catrice, is to take some transparent layers with thin gaps and channels in between them, and we're putting pigment fluids between those layers.
And so you have a window, a standard window, that you can then apply these to. Doesn't matter what your window is initially, and then you can sort of change the way the heat or the cooling effect of the window is. So some people just pull a blind down to cool things down. In this case, you may not even need it.
Well, a blind is good, but it's kind of crude, right? It's just on or off, and it's manual normally.
Yeah.
So our sort of approach has the ability to change different aspects of light. You know, the shading, there's one layer that can do shading, one layer can absorb this sort of solar heat transmission, one layer can be cloudy to spread the light, you know? So if you have independent control of all those things, you can really control a lot more effectively the energy.
Is this something, Ben, that you could actually power or run your homes with if you had this installed properly, or wouldn't generate necessarily enough, or what?
At the moment, it's not generating energy. It's just controlling what's coming in.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you do control that and make a building smarter, it's just a lot more efficient.
Right. What are the sort of scalabilities now here? Because I'm assuming that's the next step here. Is this something that you're going to try to, you and your students will sort of like take it to the big window companies or the big construction companies? What's the next step here? What's the next stage?
We're working on it. Yeah, that's sort of our next goal, is to scale up what we've had. Our prototypes so far sort of this sort of scale, but we're looking at ways to get it to full size.
And so, you know, when you're working on this, was it because you're talking about like animals that live under the ocean, and what they do with their skin and ability that sort of gives you this inspiration. You don't necessarily think of like somebody in academia necessarily think about what's under the ocean, but it's interesting. Like how did that come about? I'm curious about the sort of the spark.
Well, it's just kind of cool, right? When you look at an animal that can change color, like squid or octopus and fish and crab, they all have these mechanisms of changing the color of their skin. And well, I think if you just sort of look broadly and think about it, it's sort of inspiring, right? You know.
All right. Well, listen, that's been a really fascinating conversation. I appreciate you coming in this morning, Professor. So thanks for your time. Good luck with it. We'll see how you scale this thing up.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Pamela Anderson is back in the spotlight with a new Netflix documentary that gives the Canadian icon, activist, and mother a chance to take back her own narrative.
I don't think people consider her the owner of her own image. It's Pamela Anderson, public property.
I didn't feel like I had a lot of respect.
Did you want to be a serious actress?
I am a serious actress. I had to make a career out of the pieces left. But I'm not the damsel in distress. I put myself in crazy situations.
Pamela, A Love Story was released last week. In it, Anderson gives voice to her life and career, both in the media and behind the scenes. And it really follows her trajectory from a small-town girl to Playboy model, actress, and international bombshell. So joining us live now in the studio is her son, Brandon Thomas Lee, and producer of the film and director, Ryan White. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for coming in. I watched this film yesterday. Couldn't peel my eyes away from it. It was so riveting and raw and honest. And the film is already #2 in Canada on Netflix. Rotten Tomatoes giving it a 97% score of fresh tomatoes. Brandon, I want to ask you, why was this documentary made, and why was it so important to do it in your mother's voice?
You know, I think my mom has spent a lot of time being defined by others in her life, and I felt that, you know, as her son and at this point in her life, it was time for her to take back her story and you know, while she still has enough time to really go out and do whatever she wants for the rest of her life and career.
Yeah, and we really see that she does go on that journey throughout this film with her debut in Chicago. Ryan, the film is filled with tons of never-before-seen footage, videos, even Pamela's old diary entries. She was an avid writer, and there's a scene where she's kind of rereading an old entry, and she asks, or you ask her for permission to use it and whether or not she should read it, and she says, actually, I'd like someone else to read it because I might hesitate or hold back. So was there anything that she didn't want in the film, or was it pretty much all open?
There were no guardrails from the very beginning. Pamela, once she wanted to do this, was all in, and she said, ask me anything at any time, I'll speak about anything, which was really attractive as the storyteller. That's rare when you have a celebrity, especially of her stature of fame, that's that open and raw and honest. And so she didn't want to know anything about the documentary while we were making it. You know, they had this amazing family trove of archive of not only diaries, but also all of the videos, at least that weren't stolen, from Pamela and Tommy. And Pamela gave us carte blanche to use them. She didn't even know what made it into the final film till she finally watched it a week ago.
Wow, okay, and what was her reaction like, Brendan?
It was a lot of, you know, hands in front of the eyes and, you know, just, I think she, you know, I think she was quite, it's quite surprising for her to watch herself in that environment where it's very, you know, I don't think she's ever really been on camera in a very raw and stripped down way like that. So I think, you know, for her it was a very vulnerable and intimidating experience, but, you know, this is what she wanted to do. But so it was a little bit surprising for her when she was watching it, but she really, and actually last night she watched it. She was watching again because the first time she watched it with my younger brother Dylan, and she was more worried about what his reaction would be and you know, how he would handle that. But I think, you know, she told me last night that she's, you know, very thankful for it, and she thinks that, you know, she was heard, and you know, it really was a interesting process for her, and I think she, you know, I think she really likes the film.
Okay, that's so good to hear. And Ryan, she is very stripped down in this documentary. No makeup, often, you know, hair undone, wearing whatever she wants, speaking at will. Was it easy to capture that and mix it with all the archival footage? How did you piece together this narrative so that you were telling her complete story?
Well, you don't ask Pamela Anderson to go without makeup or to go in, you know, a white robe instead of full wardrobe. So those were all Pamela's choices. You know, I didn't feel like I, as the director, was going to ask her to look a certain way. And so she would just show up the way she wanted to appear. And sometimes that was a little makeup, and sometimes that was no makeup, but that's Island Pamela. So I learned very early on to not try to direct Pamela in the way I typically do in my film. She doesn't like to be told what to do. She's a rebel by nature, but she is an artistic collaborator. So I would show up with my camera. I would throw out an idea. She would often say that idea was dumb, and she would come up with her own idea, and then I would follow her along for the day. I always describe Pamela like a fairy. She's always on the go, a total free spirit, hard to follow, but once we figured out how to be nimble with her, it was just trying to like stay on our toes, keep up with her.
It was so refreshing to see that she has such this self-deprecating, honest sense of humor as well. Brandon, there's this scene in the film where you're looking at old footage with your mother of her surprising your dad, Tommy, with a birthday, 1,000 purple balloons. And for her, it's difficult to watch because she's described this as her one kind of true male love in her life. But she walks away and you continue staring at the screen And Ryan, you capture that moment of intensity in Brandon's eyes. You're fascinated. What were you thinking in that moment?
Well, you know, it was at the time something I had never seen before. So it was a lot, and a lot of these videos were, right? Like for a lot of it, I'm watching these videos for the first time, and it's making a lot of the things in my life make sense. Like, you know, doing a puzzle in reverse. Like, I felt like I was seeing things that, you know, as a child, I would notice different things. I was like, okay, you know, oh, we're moving here, or this person's here, or that person's here, but I never knew really why or what, because you're a child and you don't really know these things, but you kind of get the reasons why in a lot of these different videos for me. So it was, you know, it was very surreal for me to watch a lot of this footage, and it was also, you know, very emotional to watch. I think how happy my mom was too at the time. You know, I've seen her go through a lot of hardship and a lot of pain, and I think, you know, it was just very emotional. It was a very powerful video too, watching my parents like that. And it was also, you know, gratifying too. It's nice to know that you come from, you know, the product of true love.
And before I let you go, Brandon, I'm just so curious, with Pamela admitting that Tommy Lee was a person that she truly loved and loved in a right way, do you ever wish that they were still back together? I know that she made the choice to give up that romantic love to protect you and herself from abuse, but looking back, how she wanted that perfect family unit, you know, from her own parents, do you think that she still wants that? Do you think that'll make her happy?
I mean, I think she's been pretty clear, you know, that, you know, she made that decision. They both are separated, and that they still obviously have a lot of love for each other. But I think, you know, she knows at this point that, you know, that's sort of just more like a fantasy and a fairy tale than anything like the real deal. But, you know, they still have a lot of love for each other, a lot of respect. And yeah, I mean, you know, I think that she knows what's best for her, and, you know, yeah.
Such a strong woman. Listen, Ryan, Brandon, thank you so much for coming in to talk about this film.
Thank you.
I'm so glad it's getting, you know, the success and traction that it is. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Improv comedian Colin Mockery and master hypnotist Asad Mekki will bring their acclaimed Hyprov show to Toronto. For more on their improv show Under Hypnosis, we're joined live in the studio now by Colin Mockery and Asad Mekki. Gentlemen, welcome to CP24 Breakfast.
Thanks for having us.
It's so great to have you in the studio. So, Colin, let's turn to you first. This is a show that combines hypnosis and improv live on the stage, but instead of your 5 regular your improv partners, you get 5 random audience members who are under hypnosis.
Yeah. Yeah, when you explain it, it does sound insane. Yeah, Assad brings up 20 volunteers, hypnotizes them, gets it down to the best 5, and then they and I form an instant improv troupe. And it's exciting. I mean, what I loved about it when Assad first came to me with the idea is it gets me out of my comfort zone. It's not like working with the guys from Whose Line, so I know where they're going. Every night I have to be really aware, I have to listen, I have to sort of go back to my roots of improv, of really concentrating on these people because I don't know them.
Wow, that's like you're being a chef and you're given all kinds of random different ingredients every night and you have to cook up a Michelin meal.
It's exactly like that.
All right, and Asad, let's turn to you. Talk about the format of the show. Go into detail about how it all works, because some people might be thinking, whoa, what goes on? 20 people up on stage, are you hypnotizing them? Explain how it goes.
So again, I'm the hypnotist on the show. I bring up 20 volunteers, I hypnotize them, whittle it down to the best 5, and then Colin Mockery from Whose Line comes in and improvises with them. Now, we don't use plants. We've never met any of these people before. These are just random members of the audience who volunteer for the show.
All right, and if I can just follow up and ask, what kind of formula do you hypnotize them when? Because I know in improv, it's very important to always say yes. You have to be agreeable, open, and receptive. So are you doing something to their minds to make them be that way, to make them be better improv artists?
Yeah, so the part of the brain that deals with self-reflection becomes disconnected when somebody's hypnotized. So they no longer reflect on their behavior. They just carry out my suggestions without hesitation and without question. So it turns them into really good improvisers. It's funny because first-time improvisers, they'll play to the crowd, they'll hesitate, they'll look nervous, they'll use filler words. None of this happens on stage with people who are hypnotized. They just carry out my suggestions without hesitation and without question, and it makes for seamless improv with the great legend himself,
Yes.
Mr. Colin Mockery.
Yeah.
Absolute legend, Colin Mockery. Colin, have you ever been hypnotized by Asad?
I said yes to this fairly quickly, so I'm not really sure. No, I think I'm okay. No, we've talked about it. We just haven't had time with tour and various life things getting in the way. But it'll happen one day.
Okay.
Maybe at the Four Seasons, Colin. I'm actually going to be there as a consulting hypnotist, working with people for stress management and peak performance and weight loss. Maybe I can pull you in there.
Oh, wow.
I can't believe you just did a commercial for yourself.
Do you see how we all just got sucked
I
into
know.
it? He is a master.
He is
oh
a
my
master.
gosh, Assad, this is incredible. So when people view this, what's the audience reaction been like? Because I know you touched on the skepticism. You addressed to people, hey, there are no plans. This is all organic and real. Fly by the moment. You've done 190 shows. I mean, this thing's been running for a while now, since 2016, minus the pandemic break. But what has the reaction been like?
Well, it's always funny to watch the people in the audience, especially if they know somebody on stage, because they are dying. They are keeled over with laughter because they know it's not a plan. Nothing's been prearranged here. So they see their mother-in-law or their brother on stage doing wacky things and wild things up on stage with Colin, and they're just in disbelief.
It sounds like such a fun experience. Colin, before you went into this, you had some reservations or kind of presumptions about what hypnosis entails, and I think the rest of the population kind of has our own beliefs about it. But tell us what you've learned. Have those beliefs been dispelled?
Most of my beliefs, I think, came from cartoons and movies where hypnotists were always the bad guy. But I found that they're aware of everything for the entire show. So it looks, when you're looking at them, they're slumped over in their seats. It looks like they're sleeping. But I'll do a scene with someone, and they'll reference something that happened 3 scenes before that they weren't in.
Wow.
They're aware of everything the entire time. You know, we talked to them afterwards, and they said, "Oh yeah, I could hear everything. I knew everything that was going on. It was just everything you and Assad said sounded like a great idea."
Oh my gosh, well, this sounds like a great show. Assad Mekki, Colin Mockery, thank you so much for coming in. I know you have shows the rest of February. You're doing a Western tour as well. Some tickets have already sold out, but you can catch improv under Hypnosis. Colin, Assad, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks
Appreciate
for having us.
it.
Thank you.
Watch it. You'll climb that maple tree so high that you won't find your way back to the ground. Watch it. You'll dump that pedal bike, for goodness sakes, if you don't learn to hit them brakes more than you do now. And watch it with
All right,
your
well, you probably know country music star Brett Kissel. He's back with a new album, South. It's one of 4 albums he's dropping this year to make up the ambitious The Compass Project.
All right, hard not to groove to that sound. Joining us now, live in the studio, is Brett Kissel himself. Welcome.
Good morning to you both. Thank you very much for having me back in the building.
Great to have you here.
Yes,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, Brett, this is exciting and very ambitious. You're releasing 4 albums in 2023. It's part of the Compass Project. South has been released, and then it goes east, west, north.
That's right.
Tell us the inspiration for this idea.
You know, I think I've had this idea for probably a decade, 10 years. I'm going back through my notes of all these different ideas and ambitious, crazy things that I've wanted to do. But I have all these different sides to me as not just an artist, but, you know, as a human being too. So I thought, instead of just having one truly Western song, why not make an entirely Western record? So that's the West. I love the singer-songwriter side of things, obviously, like Gordon Lightfoot and all the great singer-songwriters from the East Coast. So I made an entire record that is that. That's the East record. South record, which is out now, is like straight ahead, radio-driven, hit-driven country. And the North record, I think the two of you would really enjoy, because if you haven't seen one of my live shows, these are all of my favorite songs that I do live, all of my, I guess, greatest hits over the last 10 years, all performed live across Canada.
Oh, nice.
It could be, you know, airwaves from the Danforth Music Hall or Anthem from the Calgary Stampede. So we saved all these great clips.
Brett, how do you then do this? Because if you're getting out of your writing comfort zone, say, to write songs that aren't necessarily the style that you typically write in, how challenging is that as an artist to sort of shake out of that, not only to make music, but to make good music, right? You want to put something up that people are going to want to listen to.
You know, it's a great question. For me, I think the thing is that there was this great body of work over the last 10 years of songs that I've written that I love with all my heart that I never thought would ever see the light of day until I really realized that I had enough in this subgenre of country music that was truly traditional and very Western that really would make sense. If I'm not going to record it, maybe somebody from Yellowstone is going to hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, I think it was one of those things where there were so many songs that I was able to put together a package that was this big.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, you know, you're also known for your non-traditional ways, you know, teaming up with 98 Degrees, other artists to produce different sounds and collaborations. So will this new collection of albums incorporate that aspect again of collaborations, or will it be mostly you?
We've reached out to a couple of our friends in the business and stuff like that, but I think one of the really cool things is just understanding that there are these different sides to me that fans really may not expect. So because of that, I think that would be the unexpected qualities on the Compass project as we release this and, you know, get set to announce a tour that's going to be going right across Canada later this year too. So there's a lot on the go, and I'm still chasing after my 4 kids too. So
4 children. You are going to be 4 children, 4 albums.
Yeah.
You know, where do you find the energy? What are you taking? Because Jen and I have to get up so super early for this gig. We need to know
what you're
are you
taking,
using.
I think I need what you guys have, because morning TV and morning radio is so special, and what you two bring to the GTA area, and everybody watches you across Canada know that you guys are the best in the biz. So I don't know if I can be giving you
time, by the way.
We love you.
Well, and I love you back.
What's going on?
I don't think I can give you any advice. You're also parents to 3 kids each, and I mean, you know what it's like. You just I don't know, get on the tractor and go.
It's a grind.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and Brett, very, very quick last question. You know, you've won so many accolades, Junos, you know, Canadian Country Music Awards. Like, what's next? What is the big next thing you want to do besides put out these 4 albums?
You know what? I'm really excited to get back on the road and play and perform. That is my true passion. I mean, if I'm not chasing after my kids, I love, you know, going up and down the highway and playing all these great venues, not only across Canada, but around the world. I got to check off the Cheyenne Frontier Days, the big rodeo in Cheyenne, Wyoming last year. And I'm just really looking at all these great venues around the world that I really want to play. And the Grand Ole Opry just talked to my manager a couple days ago and invited me back to the Opry, so I get to go back to that sacred circle in Nashville. So there's a lot of great things on the horizon.
Well, you don't need a compass to find Brett Kissel. He's going to be everywhere this year. Brett, thanks for joining us this morning. Really appreciate the time. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You both.
Good luck.
Thanks very much. All right.
Thanks, buddy.
Cheers. Yeah, absolutely. Sonia, over to you right now.
Oh.
No, Sonia. It's break time, and we'll be back with more.
Yeah, we fight for what's right. We're wild and we're free from the mountains above us. And all you can see is more than just a place with freedom.
I just think you should get to have a normal life.
Dad, a guy dressed like a bee tried to kill me in my room when I was 6. I've never had a normal life.
How about some music?
And in that moment, all I could think was, how did the Hulk turn me into a baby? Will I be a baby forever? Am I the Hulk's baby?
Dad, are you listening to your own book?
But I was ready for anything.
No, that's
Steve and
this
I
is the radio.
over there.
It's so weird. Something's wrong with this switch. It won't turn up.
All right, well, get ready to enter the quantum realm with superheroes Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne continuing their adventures as Ant-Man and the Wasp. The film stars Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Michelle Pfeiffer, Michael Douglas, and Catherine Newton. It opens exclusively in theaters on February 17th. So, for more on the all-new Quantum Realm adventure, we're joined live in the studio by Catherine Newton. Catherine, good morning. Welcome.
Hi. Good morning. Thank you so much. Hello, Toronto. Hi, Canada.
I can't decide what I like better, the outfit you're wearing today or your costume as Ant Girl, but we'll get into that. So this film, pretty much like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but on steroids.
Right.
It was such a trip, so funny. And you play Ant-Man's 18-year-old daughter, Cassie. You get to fight bad guys, help save a world. Is being a superhero everything you thought it would be?
Oh, I love that reference, too. Definitely, that's the vibe. Well, It is everything I thought it would be. I've been dreaming about being a Marvel superhero since I was 8 years old, and I always wanted to be Marvel's biggest superhero of all time, which I find really ironic because Cassie Lang literally is the largest. She's 40 feet tall. So, you know, I'm just proof that, you know, dreams can come true.
Absolutely.
Because mine did.
I'm so happy to hear that because you have a thing with your own dad watching superhero films when you were young, when you watched Marvel as Iron Man for the first time. So now you get to play it out with Paul Rudd as your dad. And one of the key things that, you know, director Peyton Reed wanted to really focus on was Ant-Man's relationship with Cassie and that dynamic. So talk about what that relationship is like in this film.
The heart of the movie is about a father and a daughter reconnecting and getting to know each other again. But this movie is just so funny. Paul Rudd is hilarious. He plays, you know, he plays my dad. He made me laugh every day on set. So the father-daughter chemistry just happened like instantly. I don't even know how we shot this movie because all I did was giggle the whole time.
All right, so my next question to you, is Paul Rudd as nice and as dorky as he is in this film? Is that Paul Rudd? Is that him?
Yeah. He doesn't have to do anything, and I start laughing.
So he's just
it's amazing.
Naturally that
He's
guy.
naturally funny. He's really Ant-Man, you know, the regular guy just trying to save the world who happens to have a super suit, and that's like my character. Cassie Lang is just a normal girl like me, trying to figure it out, and she's totally a mess. Kind of a dork, which is, you know, just like me. I'm making mistakes all the time.
And your relationship takes quite an arc in the film because at first you're like, Dad, I'm 18, I'm a big girl, rah, 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 I'm an idealist, you're not doing enough, you're just focused on your book tour, but eventually you really team up.
Right. I mean, he's been gone in the blip, and she had a choice. You know, she could be a normal girl or she became a hero for herself, and that's what it's about, is she wants to make her dad proud. She wants him to believe in her, and it only takes one person to change your life, and she's just trying to impress him.
Absolutely, and viewers are going to enter the quantum realm, and this quantum realm reminds me of like a Salvador Dali painting.
Ooh.
It's really, really trippy. We meet all kinds of interesting characters, so I want to know, what was it like filming, acting in this situation where there's CGI, special effects, all that movie-making stuff that makes Marvel movies so big and cool?
That's my favorite part of this movie, is the world, because when we were filming, I had no idea what it was going to look like. And my favorite thing are the new characters that you meet in the quantum realm. It's kind of like going to Oz in The Wizard of Oz, you know what I mean? Like, it's a new world, there's new people, things that are really cute and squishy. But filming it, I had no idea what anything was going to look like. We filmed on this big volume that kind of was like a green screen with all these lights, kind of like a studio. So I just had to use my imagination and trust our director, Peyton Reed, that I was really reacting to something that I didn't understand. And most of the time, I felt so silly. You know, I'd look at Paul and I'd be like, do you know what we're doing? And he'd be like, nah, it's fine.
Wow, well, you make it look so convincing. Okay, before we let you go, Catherine, another central theme of this movie is about family secrets, and I know you kept it from your family and friends when you got the role in this film, but can you tell us on live TV right now, what is a secret that you have kept from your family that they don't know about yet? Can you divulge?
Oh, well, like when I found out I had a meeting on this job, I had to take the meeting in my closet. So I do a lot of meetings in my closet, so nobody in my house can hear what I'm saying. Like a lot of people probably did during COVID, you know, like you have to have your Zoom meetings and it needs to be quiet, and I need to be quiet with my dogs, my 3 poodles that are barking. So a lot goes on in that closet.
All right, so basically you're not going to tell us any secrets that your family does.
My secrets are in the vault.
All right, Catherine Newton, who plays Cassie Lang in Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks
on
for
CP24
having me.
Breakfast.
Have a great day, everyone.
The film is out February 17th.